And now I'm very excited to welcome back a man who eats, sleeps, and breathes college basketball. You know him as Greg Hoops Peterson from the Vegas Sports and Information Network and the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast. You can follow him at GUnits_81. Greg, my man, did the committee get it right?
I thought they did a relatively solid job. I know that there were some folks that were griping about Texas A&M not getting in, and I think that you're able to make a relatively solid case for them. But all in all, I really don't have too many complaints with this, and I'm not someone that I dive too much into this because I'm one of those people that I used to do a lot of bracketology. I really don't anymore. Just one of those cases where I say, you know what, give us the matchups, and I will handicap from there because there is no money to be made taking a look at hypotheticals. But now that we've got the field of 64, there's a lot of money to be made on these games. So I'm always one of those people that I just like to wait and see what the committee winds up going out with. And unless we have something absolutely egregious, you get a passing grade from me.
We got the right person for the job. Thanks so much for coming back, Greg. Really appreciate it, man. You know, got to talk about our Badgers just a little bit. What do you think about that little 3 seed we got in Milwaukee here?
I think that is very favorable that they're going to be playing at Pfizer Forum for the first 2 games because being someone from the state of Wisconsin, both of us are, you know that the fans are going to pack the arena. It's going to be a lot of red, and it's not going to be Colgate red. That is for sure. You take a look at this Wisconsin team, and the fans are going to be out and about, and I think that Wisconsin is going to be able to get by Colgate. I know that there's a lot of people that have made Colgate a chic pick, and I do think that there's value once you wind up getting north of 7 points with Colgate, but I take a look at the Badgers. I think that they should be able to get the job done in that first round game. From there, I think that the trickiest team perhaps to be able to handicap in this tournament is going to be LSU because they wind up canning their coach in Will Wade, but this is still a very good defensive team. They're still a team that they do a nice job of being able to generate turnovers. And let's call it what it is. When Johnny Davis is not at 100%, Wisconsin's fall off is about as big as any in the country due to one singular player. So I think that that is going to be really interesting to take a look at. And I do think that the guards of LSU will do a good job of being able to defend Johnny Davis. So I think that once you wind up getting to the round of 32, things do wind up getting dicey for the Badgers.
Oh, well, I can't wait to talk about that then, that little segment. So are you going to fill out a bracket? I know you used to do some bracketology, but are you kind of more into the sports betting side of things?
I've already filled out a bracket. I just don't do the prognostications before the bracket when it's coming out because there's just no money to be made in trying to predict, oh, is this team going to be a 12 seed? Oh, they turned out to be a 13 seed, things like that. You're handicapping matchups that you have no idea whatsoever that they're going to be happening. Now we know what the matchups are, and I've already filled out my brackets, so that is all good to go. And wound up actually doing a bracket special on my podcast on Monday.
All right. Well, there you go. And you got tons of information on your podcast. I'm a big fan of it. And make sure you check out Coast to Coast Hoops on the VSiN Radio Network as well. Greg, just every single day pounding through every single college basketball game. Is absolutely impressive, Greg. Who is in your Final Four for our listeners that didn't catch your episode?
Well, I've got Kansas going to the Final Four because I felt like they did get the most favorable draw, Wisconsin being a 3 seed. Auburn, a team that just has not put it together away from the state of Alabama the last 6 weeks or so, being the 2 seed. And then I just think that Providence is going to be going down in a fiery heap as well. So I take a look at that region, and I do think that you wind up getting a very, very favorable draw for Kansas. And then from there, I do think that you wind up having, with regards to what is going to be up top, Villanova having a solid shot to be able to make the Final Four, just because there's so many question marks right now with Kirk Risa. His leg that he posted up on social media that didn't look so great. And if there's one thing that I love in the tournament, it's senior/fifth-year point guards. And you've got that with Villanova, the team that is number 1 in all of college basketball in terms of free throw shooting. So I've got those two paired together in the Final Four. Then we've got a little bit of a left side of chaos. I wound up going with UCLA in the Final Four over Baylor. Baylor losing their top rebounder, Jonathan Chachua. That's an issue. LJ Cryer, it sounds like he's going to miss at minimum the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament. He's really their top 3-point shooter. So that is going to be a little bit of an issue for Baylor. And UCLA. Been very impressed by how Miles Johnson has performed down low. And I've got them going up against the UConn Huskies. I think that they match up very well with Gonzaga. Gonzaga has your twin towers in Chet Holmgren along Drew Timme down low. But Adama Sanogo, Isaiah Whaley, both of these guys give you 2+ blocks per contest. I think that RJ Cole is able to match up very well with RJ Nembhard. It's a UConn team that they're good on defense. They're good on the glass. They've got enough three-point shooting. So I like UConn to be able to come out of that region in which I just felt like Gonzaga got a really, really rough draw with regards to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was it's tough. When you got Duke there, they were also favored to be a 1 seed for most of the year, and Duke's there, and Gonzaga with the Texas Tech is actually really worries me too. I think Texas Tech might be the strongest 3 seed in this whole thing. So that's really interesting. You got Purdue with the offense, you got Texas Tech with the defense, right? And those 2-3 seeds looking at each other. Tennessee's a question mark to me. I mean, a lot of people say this should have been number 2, but we'll see how they do away from home. Obviously, Rick Barnes has been fade central when it comes to the NCAA tournament in the past. Well, good stuff. Give me a dark horse to make the Final Four real quick.
I would say the dark horse is UConn, obviously, because they are a little bit of a 5 seed. So they're a team that I think could be able to make a little bit of a run. And if it doesn't wind up being UConn, I think that Davidson winds up knocking off Duke to be able to get to the Sweet 16. You mentioned it with Texas Tech. I think that the defense would be too strong for Davidson to be able to make it to that Elite 8 and perhaps be able to cause a little bit of chaos, try to become, I believe it would be the first ever 10 seed to make the Final Four. But I do think that you've got a team in Davidson that's able to make the second week of the NCAA tournament. And then the other double-digit seed that I'm really bullish on to be able to make a run to the Sweet 16 is South Dakota State. Jackrabbits are number 1 in all of college basketball in terms of three-point shooting percentage. They're going up against Providence team that's terrible in transition. South Dakota State gets a lot of their points in transition. Just a doomsday scenario there. Then you wind up going up against an Iowa team that the offense is tremendous, but the defense is not there. And South Dakota State, they're a better three-point shooting team than Iowa because, quite frankly, South Dakota State, they shoot 45% from three-point range. Nobody else shoots better than 40.2%. So they are by far the best outside shooting team in all of college basketball. So I do like South Dakota State to make a little bit of a run as well.
All right. Well, there you go. The Jackrabbits, definitely a little trendy pick here, but they can shoot the hell out of the ball, and they got some leadership there. I think they're 9th in consistency of returning their players. That's pretty high. And I love teams that, like you said, fifth year guards. I love, lots of, I guess, expertise, coming in. You've been in these tournaments before, right? You're not a rookie. You know how to handle the pressure. That's huge when it comes to this. And that's one reason I kind of like Rutgers today for anybody watching this live here. I think they definitely have a good shot to take out Notre Dame. So before we get into the games, we're going to do a couple on Thursday. We're going to a few on Friday for sake of time. Do you think that trend last year of the first half unders is going to be hot again?
We've seen it in the first 2 games here in the first 4 in which the unders wound up hitting. So I absolutely do think so. I'm a little bit more of a full game bettor, and I'm going to be taking a look at a lot of unders. Now, there are going to be a couple overs. I don't think that this is a case where you want to be blindly taking anything. I always have people asking me when it comes to just about any sport, should we just take every under blind? Should we take every underdog blind and everything like that? Do the research on the actual games, but there's nothing wrong with landing on a couple more underdogs, a couple more favorites if you do wind up finding an edge there. And I do find an edge with quite a few of these unders. So I do think that it is a trend that is going to be pretty profitable this year as well.
All right. Well, sounds great. Let's get into some games then. And we'll get started with a few for tomorrow. Real quick, let's do Michigan, Colorado State. Michigan just had some news with Devontae Jones out, and that line dropped a little bit for him. And I'm curious how your thoughts are on missing him. Colorado State is a Mountain West team. I'm not super high in the Mountain West, Greg. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, before the Devontae Jones injury, I was in on Colorado State being able to win this game outright. Right now, before the Devontae Jones injury, I made Colorado State a 2-point favorite. Colorado State still an underdog, so I've yet to really make any adjustment. I would think that Devontae Jones should be worth about a point to the line. So I'm going to be setting Colorado State, when it's all said and done, between a 2.5 and a 3-point favorite. I do think that Colorado State has just so much efficiency on offense, and that's going to hurt a Michigan team that they just have not done a good job on defense. Now, Michigan was able to knock off San Diego State, another Mountain West team, when they wound up coming out to Michigan. So that was a little bit of a tough one for San Diego State. But keep in mind, that was a body clock game for San Diego State. You have to fly across the country. That was just a little bit of a doomsday spot for them. Meanwhile, when Michigan wanted coming out west, they had a little bit of a tougher time with taking on Arizona. As we know, Arizona wanted being a tremendous team this season. But I do take a look at this Michigan team, and they have their question marks, and they just don't play the same away from home, because now you're going to need to get more out of Caleb Houston. And Caleb Houston, when he's at home, he shoots 47% from three with right in the neighborhood of 11 to 12 points per contest. On the road and in a neutral court environment, that falls to 8, and he shoots sub 30% from three-point range. So he has not been the same man when he's been away from home, and I think that that's going to be a big issue for Michigan. So I think that the news of Devontae Jones is very big. I don't know who's going to be doling out the ball for Michigan, especially with Jones really being the heart and soul of that win that they wound up having against Ohio State that probably got them in the NCAA tournament. So I like Colorado State here on the money line.
All right, Colorado State on the money line. My problem with Michigan is their inconsistency, but they kind of seem to lose, win, lose, win, lose, win all throughout the season. I like the energy Colorado State has, especially at home, but I do not like them nearly as much on the road. And I kind of think that their whole team revives around David Roddy a lot, right?
Oh, yes, it does.
And if he gets in foul trouble, that this team can be in some serious trouble, and it's going to be hard for them to match up against 7 foot tall Hunter Dickinson and about 7 foot tall Diabate there. So I am certainly concerned for them inside. It's going to be a great first game to watch, though. Nice and early. So get your brackets done before 9 o'clock or 9:15 actually Pacific time. Let's move on to another game, and we'll stay in the Thursday. Let's talk about Memphis, Boise State. This is now from minus 2.5 to -3. Memphis is a favorite, 133.5. Now, Memphis, a team that was injured, I would say most of December through January. Then they got healthy again and started doing really well. Penny Hardaway is the coach. Nice little run at the end. They smoked Houston, and then they lost to Houston in the tournament. But are they worth a 3-point favorite here, Greg?
I do think so. I like what I've seen out of Memphis here in the back half of the season. I mean, it was a cataclysmically bad start to the season for Memphis. You wind up losing all those games. You go to East Carolina, and you wind up taking the L in that one. That is not necessarily too tremendous. But I do take a look at this Boise State team, and my big question mark with Boise State is execution late. Because this is a team that is, if they're not the worst free throw shooting team in the field, they're in the bottom 3. They shoot as a collective sub 65% at the free throw line. And we wound up seeing that in the Mountain West final as well. They very nearly gave that game away at the free throw line. So I think that is a big issue when it comes to this Boise State team. Meanwhile, for Memphis, they've got their own wards. And the biggest one is turnovers. They are the team that turns the ball over the most on a per possession basis of any team out here in the field. But with that said, things have gotten a little bit more cleaned up ever since you've had your additions to the lineup. Having back guys like DeAndre Williams has been able to alleviate some of that. Landers Nolly, Lester Cajones out there in the backcourt have been tremendous. And the one thing you know with Memphis is that they're going to defend, and they're going to defend hard. Ever since they wound up having back DeAndre Williams and company, they've been a top 15 team in all of college basketball in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. I think the total is fascinating as well. Got a Memphis team that's in the top 50 with regards to possession frame, a Boise State team that's in the bottom 40. It's a good old situation. Something's got to give. Both of these teams shoot in the mid-30s from three-point range. Not lighting the world on fire, but certainly far from bums as well from three-point range. So I take a look at this spot, and I do think that you wind up getting that late-game fouling. I think that Memphis executes. So I said Memphis has a 4.5-point favorite. I agree with it, and set my total at 134.5. So this is one in which I'm going to be on and over.
Well, really interesting. Boise State did what they had to do in the Mountain West. That's for sure. They, took care of business in the regular season and had some games to spare. Obviously losing that last one, but that was a really close game, tough game in Colorado State, and then winning their tournament. And Memphis, hard to trust. And if you're looking at a coaching matchup, I got to take Leon Rice over Penny Hardaway, and I know Memphis has got the talent, and they have more talent, but Boise State's got some height down low. I think that this should be around a 2-point spread still. So I didn't touch it, Greg. I'm going to lay off the game for right now. But if this thing gets too high, I might be I might have to be a player on Boise. Let's move on to the next game. We'll look at, we don't have to do Providence. I think I heard what you thought about the Providence line earlier. So
Yeah.
probably no reason to get into these massive spreads unless one sticks out for you. But here's a game that I want nothing to do, and maybe you can talk me into it. I'm going to look at North Carolina versus Marquette. Now, this was at 3. Now it's at 3.5. And I guess when I kind of came to and thought about this again, I did agree with the line move. Total 152. But I got to tell you, man, last year I remember Marquette destroying North Carolina in the regular season. It was a must-win game for Marquette, but this is a completely different Marquette team with a different coach. And North Carolina coming off that really bad shooting day against Virginia Tech with a high total of 152. What are your thoughts?
I wound up setting this line at 3 personally, so I was waiting on a line move. Now that we're seeing it move in favor of North Carolina, going down to 3.5, I'm going to be taking Marquette. I'm going to see if this winds up getting the 4 first, just in case if I'm able to get a little bit more value. We'll be feeling a little bit better with a 4 than a 3.5, but I'm willing to take 3.5. I do think that both of these teams do have their flaws. With Marquette, this is a team that they rank right around 150th with regards to points scored on a per possession basis. Now, if you take a look at Marquette from night number 1 till now, I would argue that they're one of the more improved teams in all of college basketball. That said, they did wind up having a clunker of their own in the Big East tournament. Not being able to get the job done against Creighton was not necessarily the world's greatest look, but I do take a look at Shaka Smart. Got to give him the coaching advantage in this one over what you've got with Hubert Davis in North Carolina, a little bit of an inexperienced coach now. To the credit of North Carolina, they get that big win against Duke that really put them off the bubble and into the NCAA tournament. But North Carolina, a team that they just don't guard. They're outside the top 180 with regards to points allowed on a per possession basis. It is a North Carolina team that they shoot it well. They shoot 37% from 3. You've obviously got a little bit of a parallel here as well because you mentioned Marquette going on the road and knocking off North Carolina in a game that North Carolina was booking, trying to be able to boost their resume, and instead it completely backfired in the ultimate of ways. But we've also got Dawson Garcia, one transferring away from Marquette to North Carolina. Has not played in quite a while. He's probably not going to be playing in this game as well. And even if he does, he's probably going to be so badly limited that it's not going to make any sort of a difference. But I do think that there is a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of Marquette. I think that Daryl Morcell's one of the better on-ball defenders in college basketball. They're going to have a little bit of a tough time down low. This is a North Carolina team that they do not allow you to get second chances if you wind up missing that first shot in the top 10 in all of college basketball with regards to defensive rebound rate. Opponents get a rebound on fewer than 20% of their missed shots. Problem is, they allow opponents to hit a lot of their first shots as well. So I like the points here with Marquette. I don't like them on the money line, but I'm willing to take 3.5.
All right, there you go. Yeah, 3.5 getting a little steep here for such unknown and such an inconsistent North Carolina team. So I see what you're saying there, and maybe I could be talked into a play on this one. Here's an interesting one: New Mexico State versus UConn, and this line's been dancing between 6.5 and 7, total about 132. So I think I have a play on this, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
I think that with New Mexico State, they're going to be able to hang in there on defense, but you have to question how they're going to be able to do on the boards. This is a UConn team that's one of the best rebounding teams in all of college basketball. There is a little bit of injury concern with regards to UConn, but it's not really anyone of note. I believe that Gaffney is right now dealing with a little bit of an injury, and he's just been out for quite a while. So you don't have too much air with UConn. You've got Andre Jackson, who does a good job of being able to face the full floor, 7.7 boards, shoots in the mid-30s from three-point range. And then you've got a pair of guys that give you 2+ blocks per contest. Adama Sanogo, coupled with Isaiah Whaley. Now, New Mexico State, ironically enough, is one of the best teams at not getting their shot blocked. So I think that that's going to be really interesting. But Teddy Allen, great scorer, 19 points. He's able to chip in there 7 boards, was actually the leading scorer at Nebraska last season. What are you going to be able to get behind him is the question, though. Donnie Tillman has been banged up and inconsistent. Serge Jabari Rice is able to give you right around 10 points per contest. Guys like Will McNair and company, they give you a couple boards. But I think that the whole of UConn is better than that of New Mexico State. And I think that RJ Cole is going to do a good job on Teddy Allen. A solid on-ball defender that's able to give you right around 15 points. Shoots it well from three-point range. Runs an efficient point guard spot. I wound up setting UConn more around a 9-ish point favorite. So I'm looking at UConn, and I'm in favor of laying the points. And I do want to say my total 136 after. With UConn, they're a mid-tempo team, and they're actually a relatively efficient offense as well. I think that they're going to be able to carve up this New Mexico State team.
All right, and I don't disagree with that. I do like some of the New Mexico State's transfers that they got in this year. I think you have to respect what they did out in the WAC, but I mean, this is a massive disadvantage matchup, and this is kind of a home game for UConn, isn't it?
Yep,
Can you
and keep in mind that New Mexico State just a few weeks ago went on the road and they lost to Chicago State, and now we're expecting them to knock off UConn. I mean, just take a look at that. I think that you were able to call it law of what is it, redistribution or something like that, where you wind up going back, this team beat this team. So you're saying Chicago State is now better than UConn. Obviously, that would not be the case, but I mean, that's just absolutely hilarious right there. So it's a New Mexico State team that they've shown that they can literally lose to anyone.
I think so. And I think they're going to get the jitters here. And this is why I like the first half under. I seen UConn's defense the last couple games here in their tournament lock some people down. Look what they did to Nova. I mean, that was a tough game here. I think they're going to lock New Mexico State. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't get to 22 points the whole first half. I like the first half under in this, Greg. I think that there's some value there. I think that UConn's not the greatest 3-point shooting team. Now, New Mexico State's big problem is that they turn the ball over, but UConn isn't a ball hawking defense. They're a good defense that, they're a pack line. They hurry up and get down there, but they're not like going for the ball and making risks to obviously give up an easy bucket. So I like first half under.
Yep, I can't blame you there. And then you could wind up seeing a case in which New Mexico State winds up getting down by double figures, and then they wind up trying to speed up the game from there, and then it winds up becoming out of hand. You wind up having a double-digit line, and you wind up having New Mexico State throwing up prayers at the end, and then you wind up getting a high-scoring second half as well. So I can't disagree with that.
All right, good stuff. Well, let's move on to a big one here. San Francisco versus Murray State. This line just bumped up from close to pick 'em back to -2 here, total 136.5. Why did this happen, Greg?
Yuan Masulski, the top rebounder for San Francisco, gentleman that wound up missing the game against Gonzaga, which is really something that wound up moving that line as well. He was announced about an hour before we jumped on this, right around 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, that he's not going to be playing in this game. And that is a big issue for a San Francisco team that, well, we're going to call it what it is. They really don't have a lot of rebounding outside of him. You've got Jamari Boye out there in the backcourt. He's solid. He's able to give you 17 points per game. He's able to shoot it well from three-point range, but all of a sudden, Vladimir Moslavsky, he's going to need to, or Mordekowski, hopefully I'm saying that one correctly. It's a long last name. I do apologize. We'll call him Vladimir. Good guy. He does a solid job, but he's going to be outgunned down low in this game. And you do take a look at what you're able to get out of this Murray State team. Each of your top 5 scorers give you at least a steal per game. They had a gentleman in Trey Hannibal transfer from South Carolina down a level. He's been a good glue guy for this team. Justice Hill is able to give you 5 assists. And then KJ Williams is 6'10". He's able to pop 3. I thought that Masulski was going to be able to do a halfway decent job on him. Now that he's out of the fold, I think that it really causes some matchup concerns. You've got a Murray State team that has lost as many times as myself this calendar year. The last time they wound up losing was in December when they wound up going on the road against Auburn. That was a 13-point loss. Going to Auburn and losing by 13 is actually not a bad loss whatsoever. So I take a look at this Murray State team. They're coming in hot. They're going to be able to, in my opinion, do a solid job because Murray State themselves, a top 15 team with regards to rebound rate. Now you take out the top rebounder for San Francisco. I think that they're really going to be up against it. I liked Murray State as a 4-point favorite before. Now I like them as a 5.5-point favorite. It made a full 1.5 jump in line for me.
I agree with it, and I'm on Murray State as well. The biggest problem was their defense down low. They're not the greatest team at defending down low, but now that with the big injury there, this is where they're going to be able to get those rebounds, right? They're going to be able to get second chance opportunities there. San Francisco has the matchup advantage there if, Maselski's playing, but he's not. And look at the 3-point shooting here for Murray State. On defense, they're just fantastic. I am all over Murray State here. I think they get to the second round, especially with this big injury. Let's move on to some Friday games here. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to hate on the Big Ten a little bit here, Greg.
All right.
Why not? But you're gonna have to do it with an Ivy League school, and let's see if you're up to the challenge. Yale, I know, right? I'm giving you this one off the bat. Yale is a 16-point dog to Purdue. Total's 143. Now, I will say that if this was a month ago, this should be a 20-point spread at least. But
yeah,
16 points. Oh man, that's some disrespect to Purdue. But at the same time, Purdue is a double-digit favorite. That's tough, man. What are your thoughts?
Purdue hasn't covered a spread in 5 weeks. Last time they did, I think, was It was either February 8th or February 9th. They're 0-9-1 against the spread in their last 10. And with that said, I'm laying it with Purdue because Yale, in my opinion, should have been on the 16 line. You've got Azir Swain for Yale. He's able to give you 17 points per contest. And to the credit of Yale, they're one of the better three-point shooting defenses in the field. That said, they got absolutely nothing down low. You've got Travion Williams and Zach Edey, who combined for 15 rebounds per game. Nobody on Yale gives you more than 4.7 rebounds per game. They've got no size whatsoever. I think that Purdue is just going to play a whole bunch of bully ball here. They're going to try to get the ball down low. If Purdue winds up missing their threes, they're going to get second chances. They're going to be able to get third chances. I think that this is one of the biggest mismatches of the NCAA tournament. Now, after this game, I think that Purdue is going to be in for a reckoning because Purdue just doesn't play any defense. They rank outside the top 180 with regards to points allowed on a per possession basis. But this is also a Yale team that they leave a lot to be desired. In the step-up games for Yale, they did not wind up faring well. They went on the road to St. Mary's. They got clobbered by over 20 points in that one. I still remember they were able to get a nice win over UMass. And then from there, every single time that they were playing against a better competition team, they wound up losing every one of them. So I take a look at Yale. They have not been able to perform well against the big boys. And these are the big boys, both figuratively and literally, with regards to Purdue. Just a bad matchup in general for Yale.
Just a bad matchup. Just so bad. Yeah, I think this has got just variance all over it. And I could see him winning by 12. I can see him winning by 30. I just probably one I'm not going to get involved with. Do we have time for 3 more games?
Yep.
All right, let's fire through them. I'm gonna give you 3 good ones here too, because I'm gonna give you 3 where the spread's not massive, and they're probably what people are wondering how they pick in the bracket challenges. Let's go with Miami versus USC here. USC is about a 2-point favorite here for bringing up the old DraftKings. Total on this is 140.5. So I'll go first on this one. I got to tell you, man, USC has been somewhat fortunate to me. I've been watching some of their games in the Pac-12 out here late, and they're winning a lot of the close games. They're not losing them, it seems. They're like top 35 in the luck factor here. So they're a little fraudulent, I think. Both teams play well away from home, ranking in the top 50 because of some of their bounces. Maybe they're the Providence of the Pac-12, right? The Wisconsin of the Big Ten. But both these teams have 3-point shooting advantages over each other. Both of these teams don't stop the 3, but they also can shoot the 3 quite well. I think the fact that this is in Greenville, South Carolina, is a massive advantage for Miami. And I think they get it done. I actually think I make Miami the 2-point favorite here with a total of about 143. What is your thoughts?
Now, with Miami, they do a solid job of being able to shoot threes, but they were quite fortunate in a lot of those games as well. They wound up having that just stunning win over Virginia Tech, the Herculean comeback over Syracuse as well. So this has been a team that they've been one for late game heroics as well. And I want to make USC a 3.5-point favorite because the big thing with Miami is that they just don't rebound well. And with USC, you've got Isaiah Mobley, who's able to give you 13.5 points, 8.5 boards. He shoots right around 38% from 3-point range. Now, the big trepidation I do have with USC is their free throw shooting. They shoot right around 67% for the year, but in Pac-12 play, that was more around 72, 73%. So still obviously not great, but they've been a little bit better at the free throw line. I just think that with Miami having no size down low, that is going to be a little bit of a disadvantage to them. To the credit of Miami, they don't hurt themselves. They turn the ball over fewer than 10 times per contest. That is in the top 20 in all of college basketball. But here's a stat for you. In the NCAA tournament, Andy Enfield, 10-1 against the spread. That is absolutely remarkable because so many people like to poop on Andy Enfield, saying, oh, he's not a very good coach and everything like that. He's gotten the job done for your bankroll in the NCAA tournament, and I think that he's going to be able to get his team up. I think that USC wins from within, and I like USC in this spot.
I knew that Andy Enfield stat, and I forgot about it. I talked about it a ton last year. It makes so much sense, man. Thanks for bringing that up. That's you definitely had a good handicap on that. I gotta tell you, I'm going to think a little bit more about the taking Miami side. I just don't like USC traveling that far, but you're right. Enfield is a dominant NCAA coach, and there is something to that. Let's move on to another game. Virginia Tech versus Texas. Texas -1, total 123.5. 0.5, low total, Greg. Man, I got to tell you, this is going to come down to defense. I think this is going to be a very defensive game. And how are I just wonder how the officials are going to call it. What are your thoughts?
I do wonder as well, but when it comes to Texas, I did wind up making them a 3-point favorite. Marcus Carr has been turning the ball over less for Texas, which I think is a huge advantage for them. Now, Virginia Tech is a team that they really bomb it from 3-point range. They're in the top 10 in all of college basketball in terms of 3-point shooting percentage. And you take a look at some of these guys like Sean Purdue, like Darius Maddox, more ancillary pieces, but these are guys that rank in the top 50 in all of college basketball in terms of 3-point shooting percentage. But Texas has been a team that has been very solid at being able to defend all season long, a top 20 team in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. And Texas does a good job of being able to generate steals, a little bit over 8 per contest. They have been dealing with having Trey Mitchell out fold, stepping away for personal issues, but you've got a guy in Timmy Allen, I like his game, 12 points, 6.5 rebounds per game. And with Virginia Tech, Kevin Aluma has been solid, and the metrics absolutely love Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech, they are coming in hot. They did wind up winning the ACC tournament, but the first thing that really goes on you when it comes to some of these big spots is the jump shooting. I think that could be a little bit of an issue. I think that Texas, with the size that they have out there in the backcourt, could wind up being able to pose some issues for Virginia Tech. So I want to make Texas a 3-point favorite. I like the over as well. I want to set my total at a 130. This is a Virginia Tech team that, even though they, along Texas, on the bottom 30 with regards to points allowed on a per possession basis, both of these teams are relatively solid at being able to get some jump shots to be able to go their way. I think that you do wind up getting late game felling to be able to push this one over as well. So I like the over, and I like Texas.
It is such a low total here, and it's getting to the point where it'll just go over by accident, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 123.5. This is in San Diego State playing Fresno, right? I mean, this is still some teams that can shoot the ball. I'm so close. I'm with you on this one. I was so close to betting Texas. The only thing that keeps me away from it is that they rank so bad away from home, and maybe that's because they've been so good at home. But 353 is their home away ranking, and that's not good, being the 353rd team away from home. Virginia Tech should have a 3-point advantage, ranking 7th in adjusted 3-point shooting percentage to Texas's defense, adjusted at 90th. But Texas should have a massive near proximity advantage, right? Rebounding and 45. They rank 45th in close to rim field goal percentage, and Virginia Tech ranking 148th on defense. I think Texas should be able to clean up. Virginia Tech can't be, if they're hitting that ball again, that'd be absolutely insane the way they hit in the ACC tournament. And you have to remember, when Duke played them, they only went 4 for 20 from 3-point, right? That's hard to, you're going to lose to anybody doing that. And North Carolina did the same thing. They shot like 20%, 15% from 3 when they had their Virginia Tech matchup. So sometimes you think a team's really improved, but it's just the other team just shot bad, and people need to be able to see through that. I think it's important in the handicap. All right, man. Well, we got to do one more at least, but we got to do Wisconsin versus Colgate here out in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
There you go, buddy. It's 8 points. The total 139.5. Our beloved Badgers are in a spot. Everybody's like, oh, they're playing at home, but this is the Colgate team that everybody's remembering too. It's not the same team. They're down a couple guys, I think. You know more. Yep. But they started out terrible, and then they just ransacked their conference and destroyed everybody. Navy wasn't even a pushover at the end for them. But man, can they handle the big guys with Wisconsin? Can they handle Johnny Davis? I'm gonna let you go first.
This is one in which, if it were not in the state of Wisconsin, I'd be considering Colgate advancing in my bracket. I could not do so because the Wisconsin fans are going to be out in droves for the Badgers. This is a game that is very close to Madison in the great city of Milwaukee. There's going to be a lot of red. Colgate wears red, but it's not going to be for them, unfortunately. With that said, I did wind up making this point spread 6 because you've got a Colgate team that they're number 2 in all of college basketball in terms of 3-point shooting percentage. One of just 2 teams shooting over 40% from 3-point range. You do have Keegan Records down low, who's able to give you 6 rebounds per game. I think that he's going to match up okay with Tyler Wall. I think that Wall has a little bit of an advantage there, but the big key for Wisconsin is they are as reliant upon one man as any team in all of college basketball, Johnny Davis. The difference when Johnny Davis is playing good versus bad is as demonstrative as any in all of college basketball. And last we saw Johnny Davis, he did not look to be 100% against Michigan State. Now, I think that he's going to be able to play better in this game. Guy that's able to give you 20 points, 8 rebounds, steal, and half for contest. And interesting fact, with Johnny Davis in road and neutral court games, he shoots right around 40% from three. At home, he shot more around 27 to 28% from three. I have no idea how that winds up working, but he actually played his best basketball outside of the state of Wisconsin. So I think that that is an interesting little tidbit to take a look at. You've got a guy in Nelly Cummings who, when Colgate was struggling, he was turning the ball over quite a bit. And fortunately for him, he's going to be going up against a Wisconsin team that, as we know, they just don't really force a lot of turnovers. Both of these teams relatively solid at the free throw line. Wisconsin, they've got a little bit of advantage there, shooting right around 76% at the free throw line. And I don't think that it should be discredited what Brad Davison is able to bring to the fold as well. But all in all, I think that the three-point shooting of Colgate, their overall balance, is going to be able to keep them in this game. Wisconsin gets it done outright because they're in their home state. But I made my line 6, so I'm going to be willing to take the points with Colgate.
Yeah, Wisconsin's good at shooting free throws as long as they're not up by 3 against Purdue with with enough seconds for Ivy. I don't know how many bank shots Chucky has left in him, Greg, but I agree with you, man. This should be a 5-point spread. I think Wisconsin plays down to their competition and they play up to their competition. You've seen them win games they probably shouldn't, and you've seen them lose or just completely almost lose some really bad games in there. And their big guys are great for rebounding, but they're kind of, Crowell and Vogt, and they're statues down there, man. Carlson, they just don't move fast enough. I'm kind of hoping that they work on that in the offseason here. And Davis, fantastic player, but if he's cold, they can lose to anyone. Davison's got to be the leader of this team, and Davison's got to hit those threes. I think this whole tournament isn't as much as it goes through Johnny Davis, but it's just kind of like how Davison's left open, kicked out from Johnny Davis. Because Davis is, they're going to double team Johnny Davis. They're going to put a couple guys on him in certain situations. So it's going to go through the 3-point shot from Davison. If that's on, they're going to definitely move. But I make this a 5-point spread, and it scares me how Wisconsin plays down to their competition. And I played Colgate, so I'll play them with a few stars here. Definitely agree. Before you go, you mentioned LSU. So you got to tell me, -4, 127.5, real quick. Are you going to be playing them?
Yep, I'm going to be on LSU in this spot. I think that even with LSU dealing with an interim coaching regime, they're just better than Iowa State. Iowa State, in terms of teams that want to getting in the field, bottom 3 team with regards to offensive efficiency, a team that really doesn't do a great job on the glass. Terry Easton along Darius Days combined to be able to give you 31 points, right around 14 rebounds per game. Should be able to get it done. And we have seen interim coaches in the past do well in the tournament. Look no further than Steve Fisher, when he wound up leading Michigan all the way to a title as an interim coach. It seems like there's complete buy-in from the LSU players that are remaining there. And I feel like LSU's offensive numbers are a little bit of a case of Medusa in that Xavier Pinson was out of the fold for much of SEC play. They wound up having their warts when they wound up playing without him. Now that he's back out there in the fold, this is a little bit more of an efficient offense. They are a team that they turn the ball over quite a bit, but Iowa State, they do a poor job of being able to just have good shot selection in general. And as we know, TJ Altenberger, he's got his issues as well. So it's a spot in which I'm going to be willing to lay it with LSU. Set them as an 8-point favorite, actually.
Ooh, that's a big difference. Look at, I'm glad I brought that up then, Greg. Man, we're out of time, Greg. Great job. Thank you so much for breaking down the first round of the NCAA tournament. Where can our viewers and our listeners get your great information for the future?
At @GUnit_81 on Twitter. And then the podcast is going to be going every single day. I break down all the NCAA tournament games, but those are looking for the Basketball Classic, looking for the NIT, CBI. Got all of those on there as well. Coast to Coast Hoops is a podcast. And we'll find that wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. And then on VSiN, the Greg Peterson Experience rolls on every Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4 a.m. Eastern.
And you do some baseball, right? Baseball's coming around the corner.
Yes, sir. We actually get a clean break this year as well. I don't have to overlap. I get a whole 2 days off to be able to prepare for baseball season. So here we go.
Look at that. 2 days off for Greg. What is that? What are you going to do with yourself, man?
I have absolutely no idea. There's a couple Bud Lights in the fridge that have been waiting to be used up, so perhaps we'll be doing that.
There you go. That's the Wisconsin way. Thank you so much for coming on, Greg. We'll be tweeting at you. I have a great time watching the games. Best of luck to you and have some fun.
You as well. Thank you so much.